Yes, sir.
Okay. Can somebody give me a gist of where we left? In the last class, where were we? I gave you a complete example.
Yes, sir.
Explaining how to calculate uh, equated annual return or effective annual return. I think that's a more technical and correct term if I use the term effective annual return, right? Now I'm taking another example. This is an example related to zero coupon bond. Okay. Now on your screen you will find that I have taken in row 12 on my Excel sheet a particular zero coupon bond. Can somebody explain what is a zero coupon bond? Yes, somebody should explain what is a zero coupon bond. Is it a new term for all of you?
No, sir.
Okay, so explain.
Sir, zero coupon bond is a type of bond which is issued at a very low price and thus it doesn't carry any interest payable to the investor.
Yeah, second part of the characteristics is correct, but first
Sir,
part,
bonds that do not pay interest during the life of the bond.
right, bonds which do not have any coupon, and that is why coupon is nothing but the interest, right? We use this term coupon because it comes with a frequency. Let's say if your interest is paid 3 monthly, so it will be a 3 month coupon. If it is paid 6 monthly, it will be a 6 month coupon. Generally, it is 6 month or higher. That is how the coupons are there. So it could be a 6 monthly coupon, 1 year coupon, like that. So the idea of a interest is that it is calculated on a 6 monthly basis. So if it is calculated on a 6 monthly basis, then we look at the interest. But in zero coupon there is no interest. That is why it is zero. If there is interest, so that coupon would carry that interest. And so it's like a detachment. In many of the countries, it comes as a detachment which you can sell separately in the market. Let us say there is a 4% coupon bond, right? And let's say this bond is having a face value of 1000 rupees. So this 4% coupon bond on a 6 month basis on a 1000 rupees bond would earn 20 rupees in 6 months, right? It will earn 20 rupees. 4% coupon on an annual basis, it will earn 40 rupees, and on a 6 month basis, it would earn 20 rupees. So it will be like a 20 rupee coupon, which can be bought and sold separately in the market. And the bond is detached from the coupon, and bond is also sellable, is also transacted in the market separately, and can be redeemed on maturity. But because coupon is every given the frequency after every some period of the coupon, let's say 6 months, so every 6 months this coupon becomes mature. Okay, so this 20 rupees coupon, supposing it is a 4% coupon bond, so on a 6 month basis, in 6 months this coupon will become mature and you can get 20 rupees. So instead of getting this 20 rupees over the 6 months period, this coupon will also be traded separately. So let's say if it is traded today instead of at the time of maturity of the coupon, right? So let's say in 6 months down the line, the coupon will have its face value. Coupon will have 20 rupees. But today, this coupon of 20 rupees may be sold or bought at a different price. So that will be the market price of that coupon. But here we are talking of a zero coupon. So in a way, there is no detachable coupon available because there is no interest. And that is why it is called a zero coupon bond. So this zero coupon bond is having a face value with a maturity of 6 months is my first example. So given this first example, I am just taking a price hypothetically that supposing it is traded in the market today for 92 rupees. Okay. So given this 92 rupees, and like that, there are other examples. So you have a 1 year maturity zero coupon bond, and it is traded today for 91 rupees. And you have a 10 rupees 10-year zero coupon bond, that is with a maturity of 10 years, and it is traded today for 22 rupees. So the question is, which one is a better price, which one is giving you higher return, is what we want to calculate. So we do this calculation based on the understanding that we got, right? So we do a calculation of effective annual rate, right? This is how we are doing the calculation of effective annual rate. The formula is same. Formula is same. Like we have learned in the case of when we were learning in the earlier class. So we calculated. So here I am also showing the idea of a holding period return. So in holding period return, because it's a return for whatever the period, in this case it is 6 months. So we are getting a return of 8.6%, 8.6, or you can say 8.7%, because it is 8.69% that you are getting. But if you calculate effective annual return, it is coming out to be 18.14%. But if you take the second case, in the second case, now holding period return is definitely higher, because that you are holding it for 1 year, and definitely you are getting in absolute terms higher return, because it is selling in the market at 91 rupees. So definitely there is a difference between the price and the face value of 9 rupees. So definitely absolute return is more, and so the rate is also higher. But our effective annual return is much lower, because by keeping it for extra 6 months, you are gaining just 1 rupee extra. You are able to buy it for 91 rupees instead of 92 rupees. With 92 rupees, the maturity was 5 years, and maturity was 6 months. So in 6 months time, you will get your 100 rupees. And here with 91 rupees, the maturity is 1 year. So in 1 year time, you will get 100 rupees. So that's how we have calculated this effective annual return. And following the same mechanism, we calculate it for 10 years. Okay. We are calculating for 10 years. So when we calculate it for 10 years, we find this one is giving us 16% return. So of these three cases, in fact, the first case, which is a 6 month maturity zero coupon bond, is giving you the best return. Is this example clear? I have also explained simultaneously how we calculate the holding period return. And just to bring the whole idea on a white sheet, so this is how we are writing effective annual return, and if we have to bring the equality between the two, so we are saying this is our holding period return. Okay. Minus 1. Right. So that's how we are calculating in all the three cases. Is my white screen visible? Is the whiteboard visible to everybody? Right. We were using this formula in the earlier class to calculate effective annual return. And we are using now, let's say, holding period return also as a concept. And we are using holding period return to calculate EAR, or we can calculate EAR, effective annual return, directly also. Okay, so that's how in these three cases we have done this calculation, and so our measure of comparison is always effective annual return, and so this becomes the 10-year bond, 10-year zero coupon bond, which is having a price of 22 rupees, is having 16.3% return. 1 year is having a 1 year coupon bond, 1 year zero coupon bond having a price of 91 rupees, face value 100, is having a 9.8% return, and 6 months zero coupon bond is having a price of 92, face value 100. So it's having a return. So this 6 months zero coupon bond is giving you the highest return. Taking another example, which is also of the zero coupon bonds, but I am taking a zero coupon bond of the face value 1000. Okay, so I've taken 4 different examples. Maturity 1 year, 4 year, 8 year, and 10 years. So our holding period return. Okay, so taking the whiteboard again, how do we show the holding period return? Holding period return is calculated using the price at the terminal point minus price at the initial point of investment divided by price at the initial point. So base price, current price minus base price divided by base price is our formula to calculate holding period return. So the formula is simple, but I did not discuss it last time because I wanted to discuss it with the help of an example which is practical. So in these four cases, it is the 10-year zero coupon bond which is the best. Okay, something which is, now we can do some manipulation with this. Now supposing I say that it is available for 300 rupees today, or let's say I say available for 500 rupees. Now this is still a better price. Supposing I say it is available for 600, then this is not as good, but definitely better than 1 year zero coupon bond. If my 1 year zero coupon bond is definitely better than this, and supposing this becomes let's say 580, still it is only better than 1 year zero coupon bond. But let's say this becomes 550, It is the best of all the four cases. Okay. Now, let us take an example of the dividend paying equity. So in case of dividend paying equity, we are saying that current price is 3,000, holding period is 3 years, investment is 2,500, and dividend is 340. Right. Now there is a slight complexity we have introduced here. What is the complexity here? What is the complexity here? See, maybe in book that will be explained theoretically but not practically. So I'm just trying to connect with the chapter. We have taken 340 as dividend, and we are saying holding period is 3 years. There is a possibility that over the 3 years, which I write it here as 1, 2, and 3, let's say in the first year you got 100 rupees dividend, in second year you got 80 rupees dividend, and third year you got, let us say, 100 rupees. But that only makes it 280. So should we have dividend? Should we have dividend received equivalent to 340 rupees, or should we have something else? Is this example conveying the point that look, this, although the actual dividend received is 280, but we are taking, by some method of conversion, we are taking, dividend to be also at the current price. Then only you can say 340 is dividend in current terms, because you are trying to calculate the returns over your original investment. So supposing you got 100 rupees back at the end of first year, that would further earn some return in the next 2 years. And the dividend that you get in second year would also earn some return for next 1 year. It is only the third year dividend, because you are expectedly getting at the end of the year, you may not get any additional return on that. So we are, kind of, to simplify this calculation, we are saying, well, dividend is 340. So this 340 is current price equivalent of the dividends that you received over the 3 years. And that is why it is easier a calculation in the case of a company which is not paying dividend. Because everything is incorporated in the price of the share. Dividend need not be incorporated because dividend is zero. But the profit that the company is earning is getting reflected in the price that it is getting in the market. Is my idea clear? That is why we have been doing, annual calculations. So with annual calculation, then you do a multiplication, then you take a geometric mean. That's how we have been doing it. But now we don't have that information. In this case, that information is missing. We only have this much. So we are assuming that it is the value. We don't have, until unless the problem in the examination or the problem posed before you specifies, something is to be done with the dividend. You take this dividend as your returns in the form of dividend. And likewise, so you are first calculating the holding period return. So you are taking current price minus the amount of investment plus the dividend. Dividend here has been taken first, divided by. So if I have to write this formula in my calculation on the whiteboard, how do I write it? I will say that here we are talking of P1 minus P0 plus dividend divided by P0. So this dividend, like in the current example, we are saying 340. It is assumed, if you remember your previous semester, you were also doing the compounding of dividend in some of the examples. So this or discounting of dividend in some of the examples, depending upon whether you want to look at the future value or you want to look at the present value of a dividend, which is received somewhere in between. So you are trying to convert that actual dividend into some value which is equivalent to some time frame, time 0 or time n, whatever the situation. So you need to convert that. So that complexity is there with reference to dividend. But here we are assuming as if the information is given to us, so long as no further explanation is given about the dividend. Okay, is that point clear to everybody? Yeah, I am asking. Is that point okay? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes,
Voice
sir.
is not working.
Uh, so whatever I am saying is understandable. Any question? Any problem?
No, sir.
Okay. So that's how you calculate your holding period return and you calculate your effective annual return. Even in case of equity shares, even in case of shares with dividend and shares without dividend. So we have the formula as well as the concepts. Now we move on to what I was saying last time. Something new, which is about this. What is the difference between return and expected return? Whatever we have calculated so far is the return. Now we want to calculate expected return. Like, I have not shared that story with you people on the WhatsApp group, but let's say a story which is recently, emerging in the market with reference to a share, with reference to, some of the shares, but I am talking of a specific share, that is Vodafone Idea. Anybody who can update me, update the class? What is latest about Vodafone Idea? What is it that we are hearing?
सर वो गवर्नमेंट के साथ जो है कि वो शायद सेल करने वाली है कुछ अपना पार्ट.
ये तो कुछ अंदाजे वाली बात हो गई, उससे क्लियर नहीं हो रहा कि आप कहना क्या चाह रहे हो. कुछ है तो ऐसी सी बात, बट एग्जैक्टली ऐसी नहीं है. कैन समबडी बी मोर स्पेसिफिक? Yes, can somebody be more specific? You are in the right direction.
सर एक तो है कि मतलब कुछ इनको गवर्नमेंट को रीपे करना है और
Right,
फिर
correct,
इस,
correct.
इस, इसका इम्पैक्ट ना दूसरे शेयर पे टाटा टेली सर्विस पे भी है जिसके कारण ना उस पे अभी तक वो मतलब शेयर ऐसा था कि 13 रुपीज 40 रुपीज ऐसा आया और वो एकदम से 290 हो गया था जिसका प्राइस और अभी
टाटा
उस पे
टेली का.
लोअर यस सर और अभी उस पे लोअर सर्किट ही लगता जा रहा है 2-3 दिन
ठीक
से.
है. So you understand lower circuit and higher circuit, right? तो
यस
अभी
सर.
जैसे टाटा टेली का तो चलो, टाटा टेली की तो एक एडिशनल स्टोरी हो गई, लेकिन वोडाफोन की स्टोरी क्या है?
सर वो इक्विटी डाइल्यूशन कर रहे हैं, मतलब 10% गवर्नमेंट को दे रहे हैं, अराउंड 35% इन वोडाफोन आइडिया.
Right. Government has got around 35% control or equity ownership of the company. Why? Why has it got it?
सर एजीआई ड्यूज पे करने हैं वोडाफोन
थोड़ा सा
आइडिया
जोर
को,
से.
तो
Is he audible to everybody? Yeah. No, you are right. Tell me, how has it happened?
सर एजीआई ड्यूज पे करने ना वोडाफोन आइडिया को, तो उनके पास इतना अभी इक्विटी मतलब डेट के थ्रू रेज कर नहीं सकते, तो इक्विटी के थ्रू
डेट के थ्रू रेज नहीं कर रहे हैं, इक्विटी के थ्रू रेज नहीं कर रहे हैं. दे आर नॉट ब्रिंगिंग इन मोर कैपिटल. But why did they need to bring more capital? Because they had to pay some government dues, right? And if I connect it with the other two telecom major players also, Jio and this Bharti Airtel, both of these were also to pay government dues. But Bharti has decided to pay. Reliance is also paying, right? And therefore, that liability, the other two telecom companies are taking care by making payment. But Vodafone has decided, because in all the three cases, the ruling was that either you pay the government dues or that government dues will be converted into equity stakes of the government. So in case of Vodafone has decided to give it away as equity stake. He let government convert the government dues in the form of equity stake. And that is why all that amount is coming out to be now roughly 35% of the total equity. Because if you convert that government dues into equity and then recalculate the percentage, so that's how it is coming out to be 35% equity. Now imagine a situation like this, which is maybe a very peculiar situation. Or let's say you don't imagine a situation like this. You talk of, let us say, I don't know which company of Adani Group is taking up, I think, the airports management of six airports in the country. I think most probably Adani Enterprises is taking it up. So let's say we are talking of the share of Adani Enterprises, which is currently, let us say, I'm just taking a information by looking at the data. Adani share is somewhere around 1800 rupees, 1860, 1862, whatever you can say is the price around. Now we want to calculate the return of an equity share in the next 4 years. Right. So if you want to calculate return of an equity share in next 4 years, we cannot know return today. What we will know is only expected return, because we cannot be 100% sure of our calculations, because our calculations are based on assumptions. Now, so the question is, what are our assumptions based on which we might do these calculations? So one of the important area of assumption in such case would be can somebody throw light on it? Yes. Can somebody add to this discussion? See, let us say in any case we are talking of long-term investment, which means more than your investment time horizon is more than 1 year. But more than 1 year could be anything. So we need to decide what is our time horizon. Anything else? Let us say we decide our time horizon is whatever I said 4 years. So let's say it is 4 years. We really need to guess the state of the economy for these 4 years. Now, this is the most difficult question to answer. But you need to answer if you want to calculate the returns, if you want to make investment, you need to do that calculation. So to do that calculation, let us say we divide our state of the economy. I am making it very, very simple in terms of the state of economy. Let us say, let us say we say there are only two states of the economy. and these two states are bad, bad and good. Generally, it is difficult to put it like this, that the economy is good or economy is bad. Sometimes you need to have more variations, very good, very bad, normal, right? So maybe you divide your state of the economy in, not in 2 categories, but 5 categories. But let's say I am saying, to begin with, it is in 2 different states. Now you need to calculate the probabilities of these states. Supposing you say 60-40, you say 60% bad, 40% good. Now, given this two states of the economy and the probability that you have, you need to calculate your. So this I am saying is the state. This I am saying is the state. This I am saying is probability, and then I am saying returns. Given the economy is bad, what return you are expecting for the investment that you are going to make? Economy is bad. What return you are expecting for the investment that you are going to make? Let us say you are expecting 30% returns. So now, if the economy is good, what returns you are expecting? Maybe you are expecting 18%. Is it okay? Is this example okay? You have anything to say? So let's say I have an investment of, now I'm just completing this example. Let's say I have an investment of 1,000 rupees for 4 years, and my expected return, right? So this expected return, depending upon the state of the economy, is, we are talking of, so this R is nothing but EAR. Now that we have understood the idea of returns, we will be using the idea of return in the same manner. So whenever we are talking of returns, we are talking of effective annual returns. So given this information that I've just posed before you, right? So this is the information that we have got here. Can we calculate our expected return? Can someone you do that, or can someone you tell me what should be my next step? If you are saying something good, otherwise you say, no, sir, I will say. हाँ जी, बताइए, मेरी आवाज ठीक से आ रही है? क्लियर समझ आ रहा है जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ? तो यहां पर हम इन दोनों को किस तरीके से लिखेंगे वो इंपॉर्टेंट है, ठीक है? तो मैं इसको अभी यहां पर मैं ब्लैक में दोबारा से लिख रहा हूं. I just write it in black again, and R okay. So this one we will write as 0.6, and this one we write as 0.4, and this one we write as 0.5, 3, and this one we write as 0.18. And we multiply PR with R. So we get okay. So I get my expected EAR, expected effective annual return, as 25.2%. So if this example is clear, we have done a big leap, right? If we have understood the idea of expected return, we have done a big leap. I have taken a very simple example, but the concept of expected return should be clear, because I have incorporated into that our different dimensions. I am using the word assumptions because all this is in information. I can also call this as realistic assumption, right? Because these assumptions have to be realistic. If your assumptions are not realistic, all your calculations are haywire. If your calculations are haywire, these calculations are of no value, right? These calculations are maybe to, deceive somebody, right? As many, potential banks, different financial companies, and sometimes even promoters, try to throw information in the market to get money from the market. So sometimes by good means, sometimes by bad means, different companies are trying to mobilize money. But here we are focusing that if it is realistic, all this information is generating a very realistic information about returns. So if it is generating a realistic information about returns, investors can take correct decisions. Okay, so it is with this context that we are discussing this. We are trying to understand the idea of expected return. So if we, to begin with, we understand return, and then we understand expected return. So if we understand the expected return of a single security, right? If we understand the expected return of a single security. Now, supposing your investment, I am saying this is like one security. Okay. So I am multiplying this with that one, or let me say, I am trying to get my actual return first. This was in percentage terms. Then I am trying to get my actual returns. So my actual returns are, effective annual returns are 252 rupees. This is my, in absolute terms, effective annual returns in absolute terms. And let's say I have, one such equity that I bought. So I am now calculating my total effective annual return. So I am saying this is equal to this into, this into this. Okay. Now supposing I have bought not once one equity, but I've got 100, right? So my annual returns are 25,200 rupees. My investment is, so this is my number, this is the price that I paid when I was investing, and this is my total investment. So this total investment is, that's my total investment. I have made a total investment of 1 lakh rupees for 4 years, and these are my calculations of probabilities of state of the economies, probabilities of returns, and in fact, it's not a probability of returns. These are returns given the state of the economy. But since it is in future, so we are saying it as expected return. And so we are able to get 25,002 rupees effective annual return from this 1 lakh rupees of investment. If your investment is not 1 lakh, but let us say it is 3 lakh, If your investment is not 1 lakh, you have bought a share which is of a different kind. You have bought a share which was actually priced 3,000 rupees when you bought it. So you needed an investment of 9 lakh rupees. And let's say I'm not modifying anything about the probabilities of state of the economies and the expected return calculated in the form of effective annual return. I'm not modifying those information. I'm only modifying about the investment and number of securities. So now with my investment of 9 lakh rupees, I am getting 2,26,800 rupees effective annual return for 4 years. So, but these are all calculations in future. So these are expected returns. So if all this what I said is okay, I think I would like to stop here for today. If you have any question, you are welcome to ask. Let me stop sharing. Should I stop sharing? You have anything to ask from the screen?
No, sir.
Okay. Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if there is no question, I am stopping sharing and